Okay, let's unpack this. Just look around you right now. How many things can you see powered by a lithium-ion battery? Your phone, obviously, your laptop, maybe a smartwatch, even an electric toothbrush?
Oh yeah, they're absolutely everywhere.
Exactly. These tiny powerhouses, they're just, silently running our modern lives. But here's the thing. How much do we really know about the risks that come with them?
Hmm.
So today we're doing a deep dive into this really fascinating opinion study from France. Our mission is to kind of peel back the layers on how French people actually use these batteries, what they think about the dangers, their daily habits, and crucially, their actual experiences with incidents.
Right,
You're going to hear some eye-opening stuff and quite a few surprising contradictions, I think.
definitely. And the source material for this deep dive is from a really solid opinion study. It was commissioned and done back in May 2025,
Okay.
and they did it properly.
Mm.
Surveyed 1,000 French people aged 15 and over. All the data was collected online, super quick, April 16th and 17th, 2025.
Wow, that's recent.
Yeah, and they made sure the sample was, really representative, covered age, gender, job type, region, even how many people live in the house.
Mm.
So we're getting a pretty accurate, wide picture of how these batteries fit into daily life.
And what a picture it is. So diving into that data, what was the very first thing that really jumped out at you about just how, embedded these batteries are in French life? What hit you first?
Honestly, the sheer volume. French households, on average, they own 19 devices with lithium-ion batteries.
19 per household.
19, yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot of little power sources humming away. And no surprise, mobile phones are top dog. Almost every single household, 99% has one.
Right.
Laptops are right behind, like 9 out of 10 households.
That's incredible. So these aren't just gadgets, they're basic infrastructure almost.
Right.
But it's not only phones and laptops pushing that average up to 19, is it? What else is common?
No, exactly. Beyond the obvious ones, the study found huge numbers for things like headphones or headsets, 72% of homes.
Mm.
Then you've got household appliances and tablets, both around 67%, portable speakers, electric toothbrushes, 65%, even like beauty gadgets, rechargeable shavers, hair tools at 64%. It really shows this whole ecosystem of connected, battery-powered stuff.
It's clear they're just everywhere. But, if you're wondering who has the most of these devices, this study shows some interesting splits. Like, younger people are really loaded up, 15 to 17-year-olds. They average 26 devices.
46.
Yeah. Compared to only 12 for people 65 and older.
And it's not just age, is it? We see it with jobs, too. Higher socio-professional groups, the CSP plus category, they call it.
Like professionals, managers.
Exactly. They have more devices, average about 20.6. Compare that to inactive people, who average around 16.7. So there's a lifestyle and maybe an income factor there.
Sure.
And maybe the most telling thing. The number of devices goes right up with the number of kids in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Families with 3 or more kids average 30 devices,
30.
compared to 17 for households with no kids. So more people, especially kids, really bumps up the count.
That makes sense, actually. Household ecosystem effect, like you said. Okay, so these things are everywhere. But what do people actually think about the dangers? This is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? This disconnect between perceived risk, what people say they know, and maybe what they actually know.
Exactly. So they asked people to rate the danger on a scale of 0 to 10. The average, 5.5.
So moderately dangerous, not terrifying, but not harmless either.
Pretty much, yeah. Squarely in the middle.
Does everyone see it that way? Or does
Yeah.
it vary?
Oh, it varies quite a bit. Teenagers, the 15-17 group, they see it's more dangerous, 6.3. Maybe they see more stuff online, those viral videos.
Could be.
Women also perceive more danger, 5.8 compared to 5.2 for men. And this is key. People who've actually had an incident with one of these devices, their perceived danger jumps to 6.5.
Ah, so personal experience really changes things.
Absolutely. That lived experience really heightens the sense of risk. And just like device ownership, the danger perception goes up with more kids in the house, hits 6.3 for families with 3 or more.
Fascinating. But here's that weird contradiction you mentioned. What people think they know versus what they actually know. They rated their own knowledge pretty low, right? Like 4.4 out of 10.
Yeah, they underestimate themselves. Because the reality is their basic knowledge about physical dangers is surprisingly good. Almost everyone, 97%, knows heat is bad. Over 90% know about physical shocks in water. 88% get that dropping them is risky.
Yeah, okay, so the obvious external stuff people get.
Right, but,
Hmm.
and this is a big but, there's a major knowledge gap about the internal workings. Only 40% knew that letting the battery completely die, a full discharge, can actually damage it.
Right, I've heard that's bad for the chemistry inside.
Exactly. It can create unstable stuff inside, making it riskier, even prone to fire when you recharge it.
Hmm.
And looking at who is more knowledgeable. Younger folks, 15-24, score higher at 7.9. Also, people who've had an incident, they score 7.8.
Okay, so experience teaches.
Seems like it. And again, knowledge goes up with the number of devices owned. Maybe just more interaction, learning by doing.
So despite knowing some risks, there are still some really common and kind of worrying misconceptions floating around. People get the basics, like explosion risks, 89% know that. Charging overnight is bad, 83%. And you can top up the charge anytime, 78% get that. Those are good.
They are good signs, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's some really concerning false beliefs still out there. A huge number, 70%, think using a non-original charger is not dangerous.
Wow, okay, that's a big one because those cheap chargers can be really dodgy.
Totally. They often lack the proper safety cutoffs, the right voltage. They can seriously stress the battery. Overheating, fire, is a real risk. Another weird one, 82% think a standard battery like an AA is the same as a Li-ion battery.
Fundamentally different chemistries.
Right, and 82% think cheap batteries bought online are no riskier. Also, 82% think you can just swap a battery with any old brand or type. And maybe the scariest, 89% believe you can use a battery that's visibly damaged, like swollen or cracked.
Oh, wow. That's not good. A mix of ignorance and maybe some dangerous assumptions.
It seems that way.
So, okay, despite all these gaps and wrong ideas, almost 3/4 of people, 73%, say they feel safe using these devices. That's a huge disconnect, isn't it? If they feel safe, does that mean they're safe? Or act safely?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the study's findings on risky behaviors, they're pretty startling. Brace yourself for this one, because the study found something that just, well, it stopped us in our tracks.
Okay.
A staggering 99.6% of French people do at least one risky thing with their devices.
Wait, 99.6?
Yeah.
That's basically everyone. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of some of these myself. So what are these common risky habits?
Okay, the most frequent one, leaving devices charging overnight. 66% admitted doing that sometimes, often, or always.
Guilty. Phone every night. I think most of us do that.
Probably. Another huge one, letting devices drop below 20% charge. 88% do that sometimes, often, or always.
Okay, yeah, done that too.
More than 1 in 3, 38%, often or always use their device while it's charging. And 85% do it at least sometimes. And that non-original charger thing. 22% use one often or always, and 67% do it at least occasionally.
Was there one of those that genuinely surprised you, just how common it was?
I think the non-original charger use stands out just because it links so directly to potential hardware failure and, safety issues. And guess who's doing this most?
Let me guess. Younger people.
Yep. 18 to 34-year-olds.
Yeah.
They show more frequent risky behaviors. 95% of that age group are doing risky things frequently or occasionally. It fits with them owning more devices, maybe feeling a bit more invincible,
Yeah, makes sense. So, okay, let's connect the dots. All this risky behavior.
Right.
What's the real world impact? You mentioned incidents earlier.
Right. Over 1 in 10 French people, 10.7%, have already had an incident with a wireless device that uses a Li-ion battery.
1 in 10. That feels significant. That's a lot of people. Who's having these incidents most? Does it follow the same patterns? Age? Number of devices?
It absolutely does. Incident frequency goes down with age. It's 17.6% for the 15, 17-year-olds, but drops way down to 3.6% for the over 65s. And conversely, it shoots up sharply with the number of devices owned. Only 5% for people with fewer than 10 devices, but jumps to 18% for those owning over 25.
Wow.
So it's not just a random thing. It really shows how having more of these devices directly increases your personal risk. As our lives get more digital, the potential for things to go wrong quietly grows too. Makes you realize how important widespread education is, right?
Definitely. More devices, more chances for something to happen. But hang on, here's where it gets really weird, almost psychological. You found that incidents are actually more common among people who supposedly have good knowledge of the risks. How does that work?
Yeah, this is the crucial finding. 13% of this knowledgeable group had an incident, compared to only 8% of those with low knowledge.
Backwards.
It is. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does knowing the risks sometimes create this false sense of security? Maybe leads to overconfidence instead of caution? Are we kind of too smart for our own good sometimes with this tech? It's a real paradox.
Huh. Something to think about. So when these incidents do happen, what devices are usually involved? Is it mostly phones?
Phones are the big one, yeah. Involved in nearly half, 46% of all incidents. But that makes sense when you remember 99% of households have one. It's just the sheer number of them out there being used constantly.
Right, volume plays a part. And where are these incidents happening? At home, out and about, and what sets them off?
Overwhelmingly at home.
Huh.
Over 4 out of 5 incidents, 87%, happen inside the house. So our safest spaces are where the risks often pop up.
Okay.
And a huge factor, 46% of incidents happen during charging. That's critical, given how many people charge overnight or use the device while plugged in.
Yeah, nearly half during charging.
Wow. Other
Great.
factors, about 1 in 5 incidents, 22%, happened after the device was dropped or knocked. And another 1 in 5, 21%, happened after exposure to extreme weather, like intense heat or cold. Things we can often control, really.
And the consequences.
Yeah.
They can be pretty severe, right? This isn't just phones getting hot.
No, definitely not. We're talking real impacts. 1 in 5 incidents, 21% results in a fire.
A fire from a battery.
Yep. And 12% cause burns. Another 12% cause electric shocks. And think about medical care. 60% of victims saw a doctor, 11% went to emergency, and 8% were actually hospitalized.
Jeez.
It really underscores that while these devices are super convenient, being casual about them can have serious outcomes. It's a stark reminder that even everyday tech needs respect.
Absolutely. Okay, shifting gears slightly. What about when these devices reach the end of their life? How are people getting rid of them? That's important too, right?
Hugely important for environmental safety and preventing future incidents from, say, batteries in the trash. The good news is half of French people, 50%, do the right thing. They take unusable devices to designated collection points.
Okay, that's positive.
Another 43% take them to recycling centers, which is also good, but there's still 14% who are throwing Li-ion batteries in the regular household trash or recycling bins. That's forbidden, and it's really dangerous because they can cause fires in garbage trucks or sorting facilities.
Right, I've seen warnings about that.
Yeah. Encouragingly, though, using proper collection points goes up with age and is more common in bigger cities.
Okay, so all these findings, the ubiquity, the risky behavior, the incidents, it leads to a big question. Do people actually feel informed about all this? And the answer seems to be not really.
No, not really. There's a definite information gap. A striking 67% feel quite poorly or very poorly informed about how to use the batteries safely.
So thirds.
And even more, 72% feel quite poorly or very poorly informed about the actual risks.
So a lot of people feel like they're flying blind. Does that feeling vary?
It does. Women, for instance, feel significantly less informed than men, both about use 76% versus 57% and risks 79% versus 64%.
Interesting gender split.
Yeah. And people with fewer devices also tend to feel more uninformed. 75% for those with less than 10 devices, compared to 60% for those with over 25 when asked about usage info.
Okay, that makes sense. Less exposure.
But here's another twist. People who admit to frequent risky behaviors, they actually feel more uninformed, 68%, compared to those who say they have no risky habits, 50%.
So maybe feeling uninformed contributes to the risky behavior. Or they know they're taking risks but don't know how to stop.
Could be either, or both. It suggests a potential cycle. Interestingly, people who've had an incident feel slightly less uninformed than those who haven't. Which makes sense, right? Their experience probably pushed them to find out more.
Yeah, forced learning.
Yeah.
So where are people getting information or not getting it, as seems often the case?
The internet is the top source. 46% use it.
Sure.
Physical stores are also important, 31%. And traditional media like TV or newspapers, 24%. But here's the really crucial, maybe the most alarming bit. 30% of French people don't seek out any information on this topic at all.
Wow. Nearly 1 in 3 people just aren't looking, even though they use these things every day.
Exactly, operating in the dark.
So let's try to sum this up. It's clear from this deep dive, lithium-ion batteries are absolutely everywhere in French homes, but the perceived danger is only moderate, kind of middling. And there are these big, persistent misconceptions about how to use them safely.
Right. Which leads to that shocking number. 99.6% of people doing at least one risky thing. And the consequences are real. Over 1 in 10 have had an incident, often with their phone, often while charging, sometimes leading to fires or injuries.
Yeah, but there is that positive trend on recycling, with half doing it right. Still, the challenges around misinformation and risky habits are, they're pretty undeniable.
Definitely.
So, just to hit those key numbers again for everyone listening, an average of 19 devices per home, practically everyone doing something risky, a 1 in 10 incident rate, often involving phones, fires, injuries. But on the upside, a 50% proper recycling rate.
It paints quite a complex picture.
It really does. So, thinking about all this, the widespread use, the common risky habits, the number of incidents, what does this really tell us about personal responsibility? And maybe the collective responsibility of manufacturers, information providers. How do we ensure safer use and better understanding of these essential gadgets?
That's the big question, isn't it? Maybe for you listening right now. How can you make sure you're not just informed, but actively reducing your own risks with all those lithium-ion batteries powering your life? Something to think about.